Welcome to Real Estate Exposed, helping people in San Diego buy, sell, and refinance their biggest investment, delivering you timely truths, exposing important issues, and helping you get into the right home. Here are your hosts, real estate expert Daniel Beer, top-ranked professional by sales volume at one of San Diego's largest brokerages, and his mortgage partner, Todd Pianin, with over $2 billion in funded loans.
Good morning. Good morning. We're here in San Diego, the city with the third worst housing supply in the United States of America. This is Real Estate Exposed, and I'm glad to be with you. It's another day that it's going to be just you and me. I'm Daniel Beer, and my partner Todd he's out today. So you and I are going to talk about that crushing home supply that's just so low and what it continues to mean for the market. But because of having said that, right? We're going to discuss a failed disaster in Baja, where a lot of our local buyers have in the past moved over to Baja, thought about buying condos there, and why buying in Mexico outside of our border is still not nearly as safe, not nearly as prudent as it would be to buy here locally. And pricing strategies for your home, how to price it right from the start, and what the implications are if you don't. They can be devastating. And in fact, a lot of that is what is actually going to be covered at the home selling workshops that we're holding. By the way, folks, they're next week. Coming up next week are these highly anticipated home selling workshops that we've been telling you about. And I have a great announcement. Our very own George Chamberlain has actually said that he is going to be attending one or two of them. They are taking place Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week, so there's no promise on whether or not he is at the one that you arrive at. We have them all over the county, different times, different locations, so that you can be there and learn everything there is to learn about how to take advantage of today's housing supply, which is just seriously so low. But George Chamberlain, it's going to be an awesome privilege to share the stage with him. We encourage you to give us a call. Get your free tickets. Join us at the home selling workshops. They're next week, and we still have free tickets available that will mail out to you immediately. The phone number to call and get your free ticket is 800-646-4977. Again, 800-646-4977. And here's what we're going to be covering. You're going to learn how to net upwards of $62,000 more on profit on the sale of your home. You're going to learn how to sell your home in less than 96 hours for top dollar. It's a systematic, predictable process. You're going to learn exactly how it's done. We're going to cover how to create a highly competitive environment for your home that actually has buyers fighting for it. Okay, how to create a negotiating advantage that puts you in the driver's seat. And it's really powerful. When you can create a psychological advantage over the buyer because you've created a sales flow, a process, an environment that you've invited them into so that they can play within your rules, that is a big-time game changer. So we're going to deconstruct that sales process, or the typical sales process, I should say, and replace it with a smarter strategy than the methods used by traditional real estate agents. And let's face facts, okay, myself included. All it took was 40-something hours of education, quote-unquote education. And then, boom, I can take a state test and I'm licensed to handle your real estate transactions, whether they be $100,000 or $1 million transaction, multi-million-dollar transaction. That's what the generations of real estate agents have gone through. It is a very low bar, And because of that, especially in a local market like San Diego, so many of us know, that cousin or that friend or that coworker that does it part-time, that got their license so that they could sell their own home or maybe their dad's home or their sister's home. And so it leads to a business environment where, because of the low education requirement to get into our business, which let me highlight, we actually need less hours of education to sell real estate than to do nails at a salon. And I'm not talking down anybody that does nails at a salon. I have people in my family that do so. But let's admit it. If my wife's nails get screwed up, then she just has ugly nails. If your real estate transaction put in the hands of somebody that had 40 hours of education, 40-something hours of education, goes the wrong way, there are devastating implications for your family. Now, real estate, like many other businesses, is, we've heard the 80-20 rule. It's really like a 95-5 rule in real estate. You do have some tremendously expert, wonderful professionals that are on the same level as any CPA, doctor, or lawyer. I mean, really high-level professionals. But you have to find them, and you have to seek out knowledge. And here's an opportunity for you. Come and just call, get your free tickets. Come and join us Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. It's an hour and 15-minute workshop where you're going to learn everything we're discussing now. We have locations around the county, and we're doing them at lunchtime and also after work. So there's going to be one bound ready for you. And if you're lucky enough to be at one of the ones at George Chamberlain, San Diego's own money man, is going to be joining us and guest presenting, then even better. So that number to call in for your ticket is 800-646-4977. The tickets are free. Just call and make sure you get one reserved. 800-646-4977. Now, here's one of my favorite things that will be discussed. You're preparing to sell your home. You know you have some deferred maintenance, or you know that maybe you have parts of your home that are a little more outdated than others, parts that you've taken care of, parts that you haven't. We get this question all the time. Dan, what should I do to my house? What fix-ups should I take on? Where should I invest money that's going to be worth it, that I'm going to get out of the sale, whether it be in time, an acceleration of the sale, or preferably also an actual return on my dollar? So we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss that very topic. What money-making fix-ups should you employ when preparing your home for sale? We'll have that at the workshop. Okay, we're going to also be talking about staging. And there's specific staging techniques and the psychology behind staging and how you can use smart staging to get upwards of 12% more on the sale of your home and also have it sold 73% faster. These are facts. These are traceable, documented facts. And we're going to walk you through that process. And by the way, none of this is contingent on selling your home or not selling it with me, with somebody else, with your mom, with your best friend, with your, you can take this information, sell the home yourself. This is going to be actionable data, and you can only get it at the workshop. We're going to go beyond the comps. Everybody talks about the comps. What are the comps? What are the comps? It's like, come on. If the comps were all that mattered, then all you'd need to do to sell a home would be to buy a good calculator, maybe that TI-83 you had from college a few years ago, punch in the square footage, punch in the price per square foot, sold in your neighborhood, and boom, there's your price, sell your home. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way because there's so much more that goes into just the thought process, the strategy behind how you position your home, what's important as far as pricing goes. And that's something that we're going to discuss in great detail in the next segment, because I want you to get a sense for really the actionable, detailed information that we're going to share at the home selling workshops. Coming up next week, locations around the county, lunchtime and after work, and we're excited to share it with you. The phone number to call in for your free tickets, get yours reserved now. We still have a few available. Even though it's, we have an awesome just showing for these so far. But we do still have a few available. You can call in, get them. The number's 800-646-4977. That number is 800-646-4977. Coming up next, how to price your home correctly right off the bat and what matters most when doing so. This is Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 KOGO. So what matters most when pricing your home? We're back discussing it on Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 KOGO, in anticipation of the big-time home selling workshops that we're having next week. And as you know, if you call in, you can get free tickets to it. So let's jump into the information. Pricing your home, the biggest decision you're going to make, or at least it'll feel like that. Now, the truth is that when you marry pricing to a world-class marketing strategy, then you start realizing that you're not actually pricing the home on the dot. You're not choosing the exact price. You're not, if we resold every home that we've sold this year, they'd literally all be sold at a different number. There's not a penny value on the dot for your home or any other, right? So there's ranges. There's an appropriate range, and then depending on the effectiveness of not just the marketing strategy, but then the pricing strategy that you marry to that marketing strategy, then we will have your price determined that the market will pay for it in that moment in time. Now, it's because of these factors, what we're going to discuss now, that you'll see a home on you'll see the same home on a block. Let's call it Plan 2 of whatever collection you're living, that neighborhood's Plan 2. And there's a reason you'll see that home sell for $475. And then 3 doors down, that same floor plan sell for $495. It's a $20,000 difference. Really significant. So why does that happen? Price strategy is greatly behind it. First off, let me just make a statement. Price it right from the start. Price it right from the start. You need to understand that what today's consumer is experiencing as a buyer. And if you're building in too much negotiating room into your price because you say to yourself, well, gee, if I were to make an offer on a home, I'd come in lower, or I'd come in well below the list price and then I'd negotiate. It might be true that you would theoretically do that if you were a buyer, A, and if you were operating in a vacuum, B. Because here's how it would really play out. If you were truly a buyer rather than a seller, which you are, and you approach the market with that philosophy, you may actually do so the first time around, the second time around, the third time. What you'd eventually learn is that you have no shot in today's market lowballing any offer, because that's not how the market's operating. The market is not operating on a 95% or 94% or 93% list to sales price ratio. And in fact, it's funny because, I'll have people approach me or our team when it comes to deciding on what price we're going to throw out there. And they'll say, well, I was studying Zillow or Trulia or some other national website. And they say that, I found a blog post and they say that you should come in 10% lower. Look, to really understand where you should come in, you need to know what the experience is. Excuse me. Let's revise that. As a seller, to really understand where you should price, you have to understand what the experience is of the buyers that are going to be looking in your neighborhood. Yes, there may be someone that just started looking, but for the most part, they've been looking, they've been making offers, and they've been getting beat out. And as they've been getting beat out, they're understanding that, oh boy, I need to actually be very close to the list price. So then what happens is that if they're not ready to make an offer close to the list price, they just don't make an offer. The market conditions them into that. What happens is that if you've built in too much negotiating room, they don't even find you. How does a buyer find a house? Ask yourself that. And let's admit the truth. It all starts with a guy in his underwear in the middle of the night looking at a computer screen, clicking on, doing a search up to a certain parameter. And those parameters typically involve price, as they do bedrooms and other elements, but always involve price. And those parameters are never, no one searches for a house up to 505. People search up to 500. People search up to 550. People search up to 600. So you have to understand that, first off, are they even aware that you exist? And if you have priced in too much negotiating room, then you don't exist. I'll give you a quick story. When we sold LaDainian Tomlinson's house, and I represented LaDainian Tomlinson on the sale of his home, came to us after he'd actually been on the market for about 3 years with another agent, house unsold. Now, this is an upper price range, but I think that the story will speak for itself. Here's what happened with LaDainian's house. I sit with him and his wife, or better stated, I stand around their kitchen island with him and his wife because there was no furniture in the house. They'd already moved to Texas. They had this giant 9,000 square foot home here at the Heritage in Poway. And so we're sitting there, or standing there. We're standing there talking about what's gone wrong because they've been on the market for 3 years. And I just sincerely just look at LT in the eye and say, LT, you've been on the market now for 3 years. Why? What do you really want for this house? What is it really going to take? And, he kind of humbles himself a little bit, and he was really honest. And this was actually the most important thing that led to all the success in the sale. He was really honest. And he looks at me and says, Dan, truth is, I'd take $3.3 million. Then I look at him and I say, well, LT, you'd take $3.3 million. You've been on the market for 3 years. Why on God's earth are you listed for $3.75 million? Why are you $450,000 above that? And not only are you $450,000 above that, but you're also above 3.5 in a neighborhood where nothing's selling over 3.5. Okay, now I understand we're talking about higher price points than most of us are working in. But you have to ask yourself the same question I brought up with him. That his neighborhood was not really selling. There was no sales activity over 3.5. Yet he was priced at 3.750. So suddenly it wasn't becoming so surprising why he was on the market 3 years later. Ask yourself, what is the price range that my neighborhood sells in? And am I priced accordingly? Or if I'm going to market, am I willing to price accordingly? Now, here's the next issue. Or here's what we did. Okay, after going through the whole thing, we applied a number of we did a number of changes to his home. First off, we repriced the house to $3,495, right under $3.5 million. That was the first thing we did. Second, we got it staged. We staged the house. It was previously this cavernous 9,000 square foot empty, just in cave, and suddenly we are beautifully furnished, appropriately priced. We shoot a killer video for the house. We do everything that we do. We alert every agent on the market. We alert every agent that's relevant of the home. We published the video everywhere. Certainly helped that it was LT's house because we got it picked up by every media outlet in the country. We put the home, basically, long story short, what we did is we helped the market find the home, and then it was beautifully staged. So when they found the home, it looked better. Because it looked better, we generated more activity for the property. Because when all of that activity showed up to the home on our terms during our grand opening event, well, what happened? They have a better experience. And the end result is that in 16 days, his home was sold at full price, almost $3.5 million, almost $200,000 more than he wanted, simply because he priced it right from the start and engaged excellent staging technique and then alerted the entire marketplace of the home. We're going to talk about the rest of the elements that matter most when pricing your home, because everybody thinks about price per square foot, but there's more to it. There's a lot more to it. And we're going to discuss that. Call in for your free tickets to the home staging or to the home selling workshop. These are the things we're going to look at. We're going to look at them individually for you. Let's put together your plan. Come to one of the workshops, get your free tickets, meet George Chamberlain if you're lucky enough to be at one of the ones he attends, because he's coming. And the phone number is 800-646-4977. 800-646-4977. Coming up next, we'll continue the conversation. I'm Daniel Beer, and I'm back with you. This is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. And we are talking, we're really getting into the nitty-gritty here. We're talking about the real stuff that makes you money when you go to sell your home. And we are taking the pricing discussion to a whole new level. How do you price your house? Well, everybody looks at price per square foot. Everybody looks at price per square foot. And I'll say it again. I'll say what I said last segment. If that's all that matters, then buy a calculator. Go on some website, figure out the average price per square foot in your neighborhood, and sell the home yourself. Now, I say that knowing that every study that's ever been done on anybody who sells the home themselves, well, you fare very poorly. But I'm being facetious because that is not all that it takes to price the home correctly. There is a lot more that goes into it. All the things that we're going to be discussing at the home selling workshop. But here I'm going to give you some insight into the kind of information that you can expect to find at our workshops next week. Solana Beach, Mission Valley, Rancho Bernardo. There's bound to be one near you. Lunchtime and after work. Let's jump into it. So yes, the average price per square foot does matter. Okay, it does matter. And it matters quite a bit. But you have to consider a number of other elements when putting together the right pricing strategy. And then I'll give you a concrete example on one we just did. Here's another thing that matters beyond price per square foot. What about the list to sales price ratio? Okay. Is your neighborhood selling at 99% of the asking price or 97% of the asking price? What is it? You want to know because that tells you what the buyer in your neighborhood is experiencing and what they expect. And if you violate that, if you build in too much negotiating room, then you're out of the picture. Not only will you not have an offer, because people always say, well, Dan, why wouldn't someone make a lowball offer? This isn't a lowball offer environment. We're not in that. We have 2 months of housing inventory in our entire county. 2 months. A balanced market would be considered to have 6 months. 6 months. Okay, we'd have to triple our inventory before we get there. So when your buyers, when the current buyer pool is experiencing a 2-month inventory pool, well, they're not lowballing. They know they can't afford to do so because they'll lose the house to somebody else. So if you're pricing that way, you're out of the game. What else matters? Here's one that makes a huge difference. What is the virtual? Where are you going to position yourself in the virtual shelf space of the home searching world? So what does that mean? It means that when you go to sell your home, you better be very, very clear, very aware of literally where you're going to be seen and where you're not. Okay, think about an environment like CVS or just anywhere, a grocery store. The items at eye level invariably sell more often. They sell more of that product than the items down by your toes. Why? Because more people see them. More eyeballs get on them. More people are aware of the product, and they're more likely to sell. If you have a business that sells to grocery stores, you know that shelf space, that eye-level shelf space, is more expensive than the low-lying shelf space. Well, the same thing happens in the real estate world. And yeah, we don't go to a store and look at every house on a shelf. But we kind of do. Because what we do is we go on any of our favorite websites online, and we know that 96, 97, 98, they always change the number, but a huge percentage, a high percentage of the market, and high is probably a big understatement, virtually the entire marketplace is looking online. Even the agent is looking online. right? I mean, an agent is looking online. The buyer's looking online. They're looking in different portals, but that's what they're doing. And when they're looking, a buyer might be looking up to 400,000, or a buyer might put in a search and look up to 500, or maybe they're looking up to 1 million. Maybe they're looking up to 2 million. But I'll tell you something. The difference between being priced at 500,000 and being priced at 501,000 is not $1,000. It's not even close to $1,000. The difference between being priced at 500 or 501 is it's light years apart. It's so far apart. Because last time I did a search online, I think you'll agree, there is no search out there that goes that anyone performs up to 501. People search up to 5. So literally being priced at 501, you don't even exist. They don't have the opportunity to even try to look at your home. A buyer can't ask their agent, show me that. An agent can't show your home to a buyer and say, I'm going to show you this. They can't because they're not even aware that you are in existence. Because you've priced your home $1,000 over. And I see this so often. It is crazy. This is Real Estate Exposed. I'm Daniel Beer from Windermere Real Estate, the top performing team for the entire brokerage across the county, all offices included. I'm giving you this advice through a lot of experience. A lot. I see too often homes that I am called out to. They've expired. They were on the market. They're no longer for sale. They were unsuccessfully, the listings expired. And then I take a look at what they've done. We always want to deconstruct what was done, what can we do differently? Because obviously if we do the same thing, then we're going to get the same result. And we run into so many listings that, they'd priced at 505 or they'd priced at 609. Do you realize what you're doing by doing that? Is your real estate professional, or do you have a real estate professional, is that person explaining to you the consequence of that extra $1,000 or $3,000 or $5,000 that you've built into your price strategy? The consequence is that you no longer exist to thousands of would-be buyers. It would have been far more effective for you to price at $499 or $500 on the dot. Far more effective than to be at 503 or at 505. You're actually more likely to get those extra $5,000 had you been priced at 500. Because, see, your job when selling a home is to find the entire marketplace that could potentially be interested in a home like yours. And I literally mean that. Find the entire marketplace. And there's proven, systematic ways of going about it to do, and doing so, much of which are going to be discussed at the home selling workshops next week. Free tickets, calling 800-646-4977. Systematically bringing that market to the home under your terms and having them compete for that property. Now, are you going to have more people competing for the property if the property was priced at 500 or if it was priced at 505? Absolutely. Put my life savings up to it. I'll tell you. And if anyone could prove me wrong, you are absolutely welcome to call me. I'd love to debate it. You're going to have a far greater result getting the entire market to the house. And when you price at 505, you've literally just disinvited thousands of people from being aware that you exist. So that is a huge consideration when pricing your home. And the final one, which is of huge impact, always ignored, but always comes into play, we're going to discuss coming up next. Stay with us. Want to jump right into it. And make sure to get your tickets. There's only a few remaining to the home selling workshop. That number is 800-646-4977. Our very own George Chamberlain joining us for at least one of them, if not a couple. They're throughout the county. different times, lunch and after work, that are coming up next week. Call for your tickets, 800-646-4977. This is Real Estate Exposed, News Radio 600 KOGO. So what is that final element that is of most importance when selling your home and getting the right pricing strategy in place? I'm Daniel Beer, Windermere Real Estate. This is News Radio 600 KOGO, Real Estate Exposed. And we're going to bring to you right now the, for whatever reason, often ignored element of price strategy that is just so critical. So I wanted to lead off this segment by just simply talking about this unbelievably obvious, and so for that reason, shockingly too often ignored element. If you're trying to get the right pricing strategy on your home, ask yourself, please, after you already looked at price per square foot sold in your neighborhood, the average list to sales price ratio, the virtual shelf space that you're positioning yourself in to make sure that the most amount of buyers are aware of your property. But once you've considered those elements, which we've just discussed in the last segment, then ask yourself this. What is that math? What are those metrics? What does that shelf space give me in terms of an actual number? What is the number I'm pricing at? And what I mean by it is, does it match the actual price, the actual number that people have been willing to stroke a check for to live in my neighborhood? This is a very important question. A very, very important question. Because if you live in a $600,000 neighborhood, I don't care if you gold-plated your ceilings and bought a custom door in Italy and had it shipped here by the fanciest service in the world. I don't care that you had a Finnish carpenter that worked on who's a descendant of Michelangelo, carve out a gate for you, or do anything else fancy to your house. If you live in a $600,000 neighborhood, I've got news for you. You're not selling your home for $900 or for $800. At some point, you have to respect the natural price ceiling that exists for each and every neighborhood. Your neighborhood has one. The natural price ceiling in your neighborhood might be $1 million. If nothing ever sells in your neighborhood for $1 million, and you want to be priced at $1,050,000, don't be surprised if, much like LaDainian Tomlinson was at one point, on the market for 3 years because he was violating his neighborhood's natural price ceiling. Don't be surprised if, like him, you're also on the market 3 years later. You cannot simply multiply your size, the size of your home, the square footage you've built. You cannot simply multiply that amount by the average price per square foot home or sold in your neighborhood and arrive at a sales price. It doesn't work that way. You can't do it that way. What you can do is employ a smarter strategy than the methods used by traditional real estate agents. The methods we've always seen. What happens? What do people do? They photograph the home, put it online, wait to have showings, and then those showings take place through individual private appointments. Individual private appointments that never jived with me. I never understood it. I did it for a good 8 years. I did it because everyone else was doing it. And that's what everyone that was doing it, that I was copying it, well, they were doing it because people before them were doing it. And people before them. All of us in an industry where it takes virtually nothing to get licensed. Which, yes, if you can sense in my voice, I'm quite bitter about, because there are some of us that are just so professional. There are people in this industry that I admire that are so good at what they do. Great advocates for the consumer. But we're constantly having to battle against the fact that there's such a low barrier to entry. That's a whole different story. There's reasons for it. It probably has a lot to do with the dues that we pay the National Association of Realtors, but I'll end that portion of it right there. Here's the point. If you deconstruct that process, if you employ a smarter strategy, you can net upwards of $62,000 more profit on the sale of your home. You can use great staging techniques to accelerate the time of sale. You can create a competitive environment in which people bid for your home against each other versus fighting you for it. Because if you've ever looked for a house and you were in the home and you were just by yourself, I guarantee you this. The moment you decided that you wanted to buy the home, your mind immediately shifted to the seller and you asked yourself, how little will that seller take? Do you want somebody thinking that when they decide to buy your home? Well, the big builders know the answer to that. They know the answer is no. They want it to be competitive. They want the buyers fighting each other. And so they stage a process that's very distinct from what all of the resale agents do. Join us at the free home selling workshop. It's a community workshop. George Chamberlain's going to be part of at least one or two of them. And we'd love to have you there. The tickets are free. They're waiting for you. We still have a few available. The people have been just so excited for them. We're excited for them. They're coming up next week. Call and get your tickets. There's so much to discuss, and I want to meet you in person. The number is 800-646-4977. 800-646-4977. Join us at the event. It's going to be awesome. Here's the deal. Tuesday, Solana Beach. Wednesday, Mission Valley. Thursday, Rancho Bernardo. Noon and 6:30. So you get to come at lunch or you get to come after work. There's going to be one near you. You're welcome to bring a guest. And we're going to talk about how to net you the most for the sale of your home, regardless of who you sell with or when you do. Looking forward to seeing you. This is Real Estate Exposed. I'm Daniel Beer.